The Nintendo 3DS. Nintendo's second 3D console, yes, remember the Virtual Boy, sold over 75 million units. But last week we saw the closure of the Nintendo eStore, and both the 3DS and the Wii U stores closed their doors forever. So this week I wanted to go out to CEX and go 3DS game hunting to see if 3DS game collecting is alive and well in 2023.
Kick us! Video Game Trip! Road Trips! Live Game Hunting!
Hello again folks, and welcome back to this week's episode. And this week's episode is all about the Nintendo 3DS. That's because last week, on the 27th of March, Nintendo finally closed the Nintendo eShop for both the Wii U and the 3DS, meaning now the only way you can get these games is to buy them physically. And of course, here in the UK, one of the easiest ways to buy physical games is to head to your local CEX store. So that's what we're going to be doing this week, is going to CEX both pre and post the closure of the eStore and seeing what 3DS games we can add to the collection. The 3DS has never really been a console I've collected for too hardcore. And yes, I'm sure a lot of you have said I've probably missed the boat, because there's been so many times we've been able to pick these 3DS games up cheap. And on the side here you can see my collection so far. There's just under 50 games listed here on GameEye, but I do have a few more in my collection, such as some of the Pokemon Collector's Editions. But I'm going to go more in depth into this collection in next week's episode, where I'm going to detail my entire 3DS collection. So you may have noticed a lot of these games are in fact sealed on this list. That's because this is not the first time we've seen a price change in the 3DS market. So a couple of years ago, when Argos stopped selling 3DS games, I picked up loads of these games for absolute bargains. I mean, I picked up WarioWare for I think about £2. That game's now about £50. I've kept it new and sealed, but I'm really interested to see if this time the price change goes in the opposite direction. Will CEX take advantage of the fact you can no longer buy these games digitally and charge a lot more for them physically? So this time we're going to head to 4 CEX stores. 2 before the store closed online and 2 after. And then at the end of the video we're going to compare to see how much the prices have changed and if it's still worth collecting for the 3DS in 2023. Just before we head to CEX, I want to remind you folks, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week like this one. I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, let's hit the road to our first CEX store. Here we are then, our first CEX then. This is my local store of Norwich, and straight away this is kind of annoying. The DS and the 3DS games are mixed in together. I've never seen this before in any other CEX store, so we'll see if this happens again later in the video. But the Lego games are always a good go-to when you're looking for cheap games for a console, and games that generally stay good. And I really enjoyed Lego City Undercover on the Wii U. I didn't really realise they made a game for the 3DS, so I'm definitely going to pick that one up, and it's just £3. With a lot of these Lego games, I have already got them, because anytime you buy a bundle of games, or normally find them cheap on Facebook Marketplace, is because people are selling these Lego games, which are normally their child's 3DS. These are normally like about £4 or £5. It'll be quite interesting to see after the digital stores close if this changes. The Pokemon games are one of those games that the value never drops, but again, it'll be interesting to see how much more these games increase after the digital shop closes. It's just the cover reprinted thing. It's always going to be a little bit of a kick for me. I don't really agree with it, but needs must if you're looking for a copy of a game. When it comes to the 3DS, I would say this is the most must-have game. Mario Kart 7, an absolutely fantastic game and fairly cheap, unlike the Metroid game, which is getting more expensive. So it'll be interesting to see what that is after the digital store closes. Same as Luigi's Mansion 2. They're both quite expensive games, but this is the thing. With the first party Nintendo games, they are probably never going to go down. Obviously, some of the ones we get like the Olympic Games, yes, they might do. But this is a game which I've never played before. It looks really interesting. Let me know in the comments if you've grabbed this one before. Kind of wish I grabbed this one, but I did pass this time. Now, I'm a massive fan of the Monster Hunter games, but I've never played one of these on the 3DS. I can't imagine it works very well, but I'm sure, this game has sold a lot of copies. I'm sure it works absolutely fine. But let me know if you've played Monster Hunter on the 3DS. I just used to play it back on the PSP, so I'm sure it works fine. This is another must-have if you're collecting for the 3DS, Super Mario Bros. An absolutely fantastic classic Mario game. I kind of forget how many Kingdom Hearts games are on the 3DS as well, but for a franchise on every console, it's not really that surprising. Two games that are surprisingly affordable on the 3DS are the Rayman 3D and Rabbids 3D games. You can pick these up for £3 and £5 respectively, and I think they're worth it. They work really, really well on the 3DS. Another absolutely fantastic 3DS game is, of course, Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed. I have got this on the Wii U, otherwise I'd have probably picked it up on the 3DS. An absolute must-have. Super Mario World. Even if you have played this on the Wii U, this is a slightly different game, and for £10 is a really cheap first party game. But if you prefer more things Sega, Sonic Generations is a game, once again, it works really, really well on the 3DS. So two absolutely classic platform games for just over £10 each. Really good to collect for the 3DS. Now this is one I did miss earlier on. I did catch this on the way out the store. Donkey Kong Country Returns for £10. This is a game I really, really want for my 3DS collection, but unfortunately it was a Nintendo Classics label, so I did decide to pass. But hopefully we can find this one down the road. The next store we're visiting pre-eShop closure is King's Lynn, and there's a good selection here, and I've actually put all the 3DS games together. I've never heard of Tetris Ultimate on the 3DS, but kind of in my eyes, if you've played one Tetris, you've pretty much played them all, except for the Tetris Effect, which is absolutely fantastic. In this store, there was a slightly smaller selection. Now, I'm not sure if this was because all of the 3DS games were put in the same area, but you can see here, this shelf is shrinking dramatically. Like, if you compare this to Norwich, which I visited about 3 or 4 days later, I don't know if this is just store-wide or just confined to a local store, but this store had a very, very small selection of 3DS games, and it does paint a worrying picture. As the eStore closes, does that mean these 3DS games are going to get even harder to find? If the selection in this store today is anything to go by, I think 3DS collecting in the future is going to get very, very difficult. These next two stores I visited about 2 days after the closure of the eShop. Now, thankfully, all the 3DS games are in the same section, and it is a reasonable amount of games here, but it'd be interesting to see how much the prices on some of these games has changed. There wasn't the best selection here, but it wasn't the worst. I can't believe Cooking Mama is a £15 game. Kind of pulling some of these out. I didn't realise there was 2 Cooking Mama games on the 3DS. And yeah, it's just, this wasn't the best selection. It was maybe more of the obscure games. Like, if you look, there's only like 5 or 6 Lego games, which again seem to have kept their price, which is a good thing. The thing is, like, if you have younger children or if you're looking for Lego games on the 3DS, you're probably going to pick these up, and it is good you can still pick these up cheap. But it just seems to me the selection is getting smaller, and this thing, I wonder if it's going to get harder and harder to collect as the store closes. But I didn't realise Need for Speed The Run was released on the 3DS. For £5 I was very tempted to pick this one up, but the case was a little bit bad, so I did pass on it. It's good to see at least there's still some Pokemon games on the shelf, and we'll be looking at the end of this video to see how much the price of these has changed, if at all. It'll be interesting to see if CEX has cottoned on to the eShop closure. As I said, about 2 days after the closure of the shop, we'll see how they're faring. This final CEX store is in Huntington. Again, this was about 2 days after the closure of the Nintendo eStore. Now, there was a very small selection of games in here, but this was a very small CEX store. But this store will be featured on the next episode of The Crazy World of CEX, so make sure you tune in for that one. Because trust me, this may have been a small store, but the retro selection in here was absolutely immense. But I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think 3DS hunting is going to get harder in the next few months? Let's have a conversation, but now let's take it back to the games room, check some prices. Here we are then back in the games room, and so far it doesn't look too bad in CEX. Some of the prices have gone up, but the main thing is the selection of games does seem to be getting smaller. And I wonder over the next coming months and even years if the 3DS sections are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. I only picked up one game this time, and that is Lego City Undercover, which I picked up for £3. This is still a £3 game, so this is one of those games that hasn't gone up in value. But there was a few games in this video which have gone up already. So we are about a week after the closure of the eStore, so let's see how much these games have increased with CEX's website. Price-wise, CX doesn't seem too bad at the moment, but again, we are only about a week after the closure of the eStore, so it'll be interesting to see if these prices change. So, if you are leaving it to the last minute like myself to pick up some of these 3DS games, now may be the time, because a lot of these games haven't changed in price yet. Games like New Super Mario Bros. 2 is still the same price. Mario Kart is still the same price. A lot of these games haven't gone up. It's actually a minority of these that have gone up, like Pokemon has gone up by £2, Donkey Kong has gone up by £2, but I do wonder if this is more kind of the shape of things to come. If CX is going to kind of cotton on and these games are going to get more expensive. At the end of the day, CX is very much like a stock market. Prices rise and fall, but for me, the most shocking thing to take away from this video is the price of a 3DS console now. The consoles themselves have got incredibly expensive, especially if you are looking for a boxed console. And even with the warranty from CX, I would recommend checking Facebook Marketplace fees. If you are looking to still pick up a 3DS console, trust me, there is some fantastic deals on Facebook Marketplace rather than going to CX, and I think paying a very inflated price for your console. We've come to the end of this week's episode, but I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think will happen to the price of 3DS games at CX and just in general? It is always a real shame when these digital stores close, as it just seems to ultimately put the price of physical games up. But let me know, have you already built a massive 3DS collection, or are you now regretting, like myself, not picking up a lot of these games sooner? Let me know in the comments down below if you think this is a market which is going to get more and more expensive and harder to collect for, either in monetary value or just scarcity. At the end of the day, it was a very popular console, but there's only a finite number of games available in the wild. I really want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. There we have it then, folks. I really hope you enjoyed this video of 3DS hunting at CX. Next week, tune in again when I'll be going through my entire 3DS collection and seeing how many games I've already added to this collection and what games I'm really on the lookout for in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.